Hi, welcome to the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast. I'm Doug O'Brien, and on today's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about goals, goal setting, and goal getting. How do you go about getting your goals? We're going to look at a few standard ways of measuring goals and a few other things we're going to add into as well. SMART goals. We're going to look at the 4 keys to a well-formed outcome, as they call it in the world of NLP. But bottom line is we want to get some stuff done. So how are we going to do that? Let's find out. You are listening to the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast, a show devoted to uncovering the systems and the secrets that set the best apart, where you learn how to take your coaching clients to the next level, while you grow the coaching practice of your dreams. So sit back and relax, or sit up and get excited. Either way, you might want to pay attention. This could be important. Welcome back. So it's as we record this, it's early December, and getting on to the time of year where people go like, I'm going to set some New Year's resolutions. It's not New Year's resolutions yet time. Maybe it's not New Year's resolution time yet. But let's look forward a little bit to how do we do this properly? How do we do it so it's not just another thing that says, oh, didn't I do this last year? Didn't I set this resolution like 5 years ago? How do we actually get something done? How do we get to a goal and get it accomplished? So we're going to look at a few of the keys to setting a goal and getting it accomplished. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. Now, I'm sure you all know about a lot of this, right? You've studied these things. You're coaches, or you're working to be a coach, or you've been coached. People know how to do goals. It's one of those things. There's a not true thing, but a good story. We've talked about stories before. Stories are useful. There is a story, apparently not really true, that back in, 1940 or something, they took a Yale graduating class and took 20% of them and said, hey, kids, come over here. And they had them write down their goals. And then, 80 years later, they looked at them, and the people that had written down their goals had accomplished most of them. People that hadn't written them down hadn't. It's a good story. It's been told many times by people like Tony Robbins, et cetera, but didn't actually happen that we can find. But nevertheless, it's often the case that if we know what we want, it increases the odds of our getting it. Right? If you know what you want, it increases the odds of you getting it. And the clearer you are about that, the more likely it is. So we're going to look at some of the strategies for doing this. Now, of course, it also implies a certain things that you have the fortitude and the wherewithal to continue in the quest, because there will be setbacks often in the accomplishment of goal. Look at weight loss. As an example, people get discouraged after a little while. They start working out and going to the gym, or doing things, and they get to a certain place, and then they hit a plateau and they say, "Oh, why bother?" So there's things where you've got to knuckle down and get through some tough times. We'll assume those things are true, but for right now, let's look at the strategies for goal setting and the goal getting. Right. So number one, there are 4 keys to doing something successful in your life. One is to have a goal. Okay, so you can write this down if you want to. I don't have any PowerPoint presentation made for you, so you're going to have to just use your imagination or write down yourself. So number 1, have a goal. Number 2, take action. This is true. This is really true. I've taught this I do actually have a PowerPoint now that I think of it. I've taught this for high school juniors in a camp I used to do pretty regularly. High school junior leadership camp. They're called the RILA Youth Leadership Award, Rotary Youth Leadership Award, RILA. And I used to teach this, the four keys to getting stuff done in your life. Have a goal, it's number 1. Number 2, take action towards the accomplishment of it. Number 3, the third key, is to notice whether it's working or not. This action that you're taking, is it getting you closer to your goal, or is it not getting you closer to your goal? If it is, keep going. That's key number 4. If it is, keep going. If it's not, adjust, do something different. Now, you might say, these are very simple. It's like, yeah, they are. They are very simple. In fact, I almost titled this the simple keys. I might have even settled on that, the 4 simple keys of getting something done in your life. They are simple, very simple, extremely simple. Have a goal, do something, see if it's working, keep going, or adjust and keep going. Yeah, it couldn't be more simple. And yet, how often do we not do that? You know, we say, yeah, I want to be happier. I want to have more money. I want to have better relationships. It's like, well, that's an idea, that's a goal, but you know, how clear is it? So there's another part to this process that is a little deeper. You know, how do you take that goal and make it what we in the NLP world called a well-formed goal? What are the well-formedness conditions? I know it's a bit of a mouthful. The well-formedness conditions of a positive outcome or a positive goal. And so we want to take a quick look at those from the world of NLP to be a little bit more clear on what that goal is, instead of just wanting to have more money or have a better relationship or be in better shape or lose weight or whatever it might be. It's to like, well, how specifically? So we want to have specific keys to forming a well-formed goal. So number 1 is that whatever the thing is that you're stating that you would like, it should be stated in the positive. Stated in the positive. So you have a goal that you can see, I'm going to aim towards that thing, right? That's what stated in the positive means. It's like, I want to go there. Not like I don't want to be there. It's not like I don't want that. It is, I do want this. Does it make sense? Little point of clarity. There's nothing wrong with knowing what you don't want. It's nothing wrong with saying, yeah, I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be poor. You know, it's good to know what you don't want, but it's a little bit like driving with your rearview mirror. You can do it, but it isn't very efficient, right? If you're driving your car and looking in the rearview mirror and backing up, isn't the most efficient way to do it. Far more efficient to say, I'm going to go forward in my car and see what I'm seeing through the windshield and drive. You can go a lot faster that way. Really, I'm sure you know that. I surely hope you know that. I assume you do. So yes, have it be stated in the positive. I want X such and such. Number 2, have it be sensory specific. So you know specifically what that is. Sensory specific means you can see it, you can hear it, you can taste it, you can feel it, you can smell it. It has a reality base to it. So how will you know when you've got that? What is more money? Is it 25 cents more? I can give you a quarter. You get more money. Mission accomplished. No, I want $100,000 more, then I'll be happy. Then I'll have accomplished it. So it's a specific thing, sensory specific. I'll either see it in my bank account or I'll feel it in my hands or something that's really specific that lets you know you've got it. What does happier mean? How will you know when you are happier? What will you see? What will you hear? What will you feel? What will you taste? What will you smell? When you know, oh yes, I've arrived. I am happier now. I've actually had clients like this. I've had clients that have been stressed. That's what they came for. They were stressed. And I was finding out why they were so stressed, what causes this feeling of stress. And it was because they had these goals of, in this case I'm thinking right now, of a financial goal. That they wanted to feel secure, a feeling of security. So they were working really, really, really hard. In fact, like 2 full-time jobs in order to have that sense of security. And I said, well, how will you know when you've gotten there? What will that mean? What will you see? What will you hear? What will you feel? How will you know when you've gotten to the place where you can say, I am secure now. I can relax. I don't have to work 2 full-time jobs at the moment anymore. And when we were able to define that, what was really kind of interesting is that they were already there. They were already there. I was at a seminar once with Tony Robbins, a financial mastery seminar. And Tony was really on the money with us. And to make a little joke there, he was really on the money. It was a financial mastery program. And he said, so how much do you need to feel financially free? How much money do you need to have in the bank in order to feel a sense of I am financially free, I have financial freedom. And people were shouting out different dollar amounts, like $1 million, $10 million, $100 billion. Somebody said something like $100 billion. I said, well, that'd certainly do it. But is, is is that the only amount that would work? Could it be a little less than 100 billion? What might work instead? So we did this. Then he had us sit down and do this exercise where we wrote down on a pad of paper. It took half an hour to do this. How much money do we really need? Like how much is our rent? How much is our house payment? How much is our health insurance? How much do we eat every day? What's the cost of living? And how much do I travel? And blah blah blah. So write down dollar amounts for all the stuff that makes your life a life worth living, and then say, okay, so let's say I spend $50,000 a year on those essential things, healthcare, clothes, food, shelter, etc. Throw in a little extra for vacation time, whatnot. So I would maintain the life like I have right now, but I don't have to stress about it. I have no worries. I'm financially free. I could quit tomorrow, and I'd still have the ability to carry on without worrying about money. So then once you've got that dollar amount, it's like, well, how much do I need to have in the bank at a certain set interest rate, let's say 4% or whatever, in order to generate that amount of money annually? Did the math on that. And for most people, it was a lot less than $100 billion. It was a whole lot less. It was probably in the millions. Like they needed to have $1 million or two or more put away in order to have a 4% return equal that. I think in those days, Tony was using an 8% return. I think that's a bit ambitious for sure to get that much. But nevertheless, the idea is a sound one. It's like, what does this really mean in order to have you be secure? So I was telling this person all of this stuff, and we found out that for her, it was not as much as she thought, and she was already pretty much there. So she actually retired from one of those full-time jobs, gave notice, and lived very happily with a full-time job. Like most people have a full-time job. That was like part-time for her because she'd been working so hard. And so her stress level was reduced a lot. So you want to know what your goal actually means. How specifically will you know when you've gotten it? All right. So that's, I think, the second one. So the third one is that it's self-initiated and maintained. Right. These are the 4 keys to a well-formed outcome from NLP. Third one is self-initiated and maintained. What does that mean? Self-initiated means I start it. I can start. I'm going to take my first step. I'm initiating the process of getting this goal. I can also maintain the process. I'm doing it. I'm going to self-initiate. I'm going to self-maintain the process towards getting this goal. I'm not relying on somebody else, right? I want to be happy. Well, yeah, well, if she loves me, then I'll be happy. Or if he likes me, then I'll be happy. Or if this, I'm not relying on something else outside myself for my goal. I'm initiating it and maintaining it myself. That's key number 3. So if it's self-initiated, self-maintained, then I can say it is a well-formed outcome, a well-formed goal, right? Doesn't mean you can't want or hope for things, other things outside. You can say, I want her to love me. I want him to like me. And then say, okay, well, what does it take to get them to do that? How can I influence them? You can have that as a goal, but just know what it is. It's a goal that's dependent on somebody else's whim. You can't make someone love you. You can't make someone like you. They have their own minds about things, right? So just so know, that's what number 3 is, that it's self-initiated, self-maintained. Number 4 is that it is ecological, that it is an ecological goal to have. So what does that mean? Ecological in the form of NLP means that you're studying the consequences. Ecology is basically the study of consequences. What will happen if I get this? Now, a lot of times you hear the term ecology in the form of the environment. So we say, what will happen to the environment if I build this new factory? What are the ecological concerns? So yeah, we're changing the environment probably negatively if it's a factory spewing what, but how do we make sure that we're mitigating all those consequences? So what is the ecology of this goal for me? If I lose weight, if I quit smoking, if I have more money, what then? What might be a result that I'm not thinking about? If I quit smoking, maybe I'll lose my friends who are smokers. If I lose weight, maybe I'll be more vulnerable to, whatever. So you have to think about what are the ecological consequences. So what are the things that will happen if I do this? What are some things that might not happen if I do this? Right? What are some things that will happen if I don't do this? What are things that won't happen if I don't do this? Are also questions you can ask. So you want to find out what are the consequences of the action. So those 4 keys, stated in the positive, sensory specific, self-initiated, maintained, and ecological, are basically the 4 keys to a well-formed outcome in NLP. Now, that being said, I've heard a variety of different people teach the 4 keys, and sometimes they teach them as the 5 keys of a well-formed outcome in NLP, or 6 keys. I've heard as many as 6. So let's just take a quick look at some of the other possible things to take into consideration for your well-formed outcome. Number 5, if you want to count them that way, would be that your goal should preserve the benefits of your current state. Preserve the benefits of your current state. So basically, I'm smoking, I get something from smoking. I'm fat, I get something from being. What are the benefits that I'm getting now from this current state, this current behavior? It's tied in. The reason I don't usually include it is it's tied in, I think, with ecology, personally. If I quit smoking, then I'll have this consequence. So how do I maintain the benefits? If there's a way that I can maintain the benefits of my current state, that means I really have nothing to lose by going towards my new goal. Right. So if the friends that I might lose by becoming a non-smoker, if the friends I might lose if I become a non-drinker, or friends I might lose if I become a non-drug user or whatever, if I can maintain those friendships in another way or have other friendships that are equally rewarding, then I can say, okay, I don't have to stay here in order to get the benefits. I can move forward and maintain the benefits. I can keep the same benefits that I had from the current behavior, the current state that I was in, right? So something to think about. Again, to me, it ties in with ecology. What will I gain? What will I lose? But it is something to think about. What are the benefits of this current situation? How do I see about maintaining the benefits? Usually, as an aside here, if somebody's trying to quit something that is even, say, an addictive substance, like cigarettes or cocaine or something that's, quote unquote, addictive, changing that and helping them over the addiction is usually a lot easier than most people think. The problem is, and this is a stumbling block, whether it's an addictive substance or any substance like, phones, or, people get addicted to lots of things that aren't, quote unquote, addictive, and yet they're addicted to them. Why? Why are they addicted? I think the basic answer is they think that that thing is the only means of getting the happiness that they want. It's the only way to get the positive feedback, the positive result that they want. It's the only means to get there. If they find out that there are other means to get there, so instead of smoking to relax, I can take deep breaths and relax. Instead of smoking to relax, I can do havening to relax. I can do hypnosis to relax. Instead of smoking to relax, I can pet my dog to relax. There's lots of things I can do to relax that I don't need smoking. Well, I can still get the same benefits. Who needs smoking, right? I don't need it anymore. So even though it's an addictive substance, I have just let it go because I don't need it to get what I really want. I really want to relax. How do I get there without the smoking? If I can maintain the benefit or get the benefit in another way, then I can move on. Does it make sense? I think it does. who am I asking? There's nobody here besides me. So yeah, it makes total sense. I think so too. All right. So, and the sixth key to a well-formed outcome that I've heard some people teach is resilience. I got this first from my friend Andy Smith, who proposed it. And again, yeah, he's right. You do need resilience. What that means is, of course, when you set your goal, you might have a particular landscape in mind, that things are a certain way in your life, in the world, that are a certain way. And so I'm going to do this stuff and everything's going to be great. But what happens if something changes in that landscape? What happens if the economy changes, or things change? AI comes along, and suddenly your job is redundant because it can be done better and faster and cheaper by a machine. Things change. Yeah, that's really true. That might not even have been as true a few years ago, but boy, things are changing. So yeah, if that is a thing that happens halfway through your journey to accomplishing this goal, how are you going to maintain the goal? How are you going to maintain your progress towards the goal? How are you going to be resilient? So one of the things you ask yourself is, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? And if it does go wrong, what are some strategies I'll have to work with that? One of the most winning coaches, and actually perhaps the most winning coach in college basketball, was a guy named Coach K. Krzyzewski from Duke University, and his way of coaching was really interesting to me, because he did this a lot. He did this last thing a lot. He asked, what could go wrong? Okay, Duke University, we're going to play UNC next week. We're going to play Kansas or whatever. How are they going to beat us? Let's look at all the ways that we are vulnerable to playing this team. How do they measure up against us, and what are our weaknesses against them? So what could go wrong? What could go wrong? I always thought it was kind of a negative way of approaching things. But what happens next is he says, what could we do to, deal with that? What are we going to do to respond to that? So it could go wrong, but we're going to do that. It could go wrong this way, we're going to do that. So if you could look at what could go wrong, then you can come up with strategies to respond appropriately. And obviously it worked pretty well for Coach K and for Duke University. And he also coached men's Olympic teams and stuff like that. So I think the most, you can look it up, but I think he's the winningest coach in college basketball history. So that's my little spiel on goal setting. But I do want to add one more thing. There is an acronym for a type of goal that I think is brilliant, a wonderful acronym, SMART goals. You've probably heard of them. They've been around for the past 40 years or so, since the 80s. SMART goals, SMART, is an acronym for 5 keys in this particular case. SMART goals are specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, and they're time bound. Some of those are already in the stages I've been talking to you about. But once again, specific, so SMART, SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And I just want to talk about that a little bit, because there's mostly, like I said, they're already in what we're talking about, but not all of them. Not all of them. And I have found for myself that adding 1 or 2 of those things into my general goal setting that aren't in what I've been talking about so far are very, very useful. And particularly when I do coaching with clients, because it's also, I usually coach with people with either a 3-month or a 6-month or a 1 year, a frame. So we want to get things done within a time frame. So that last one, the time bound part of the SMART goals, the T, time bound, I think can be really an important piece, to say when are you going to get this done? When you get this done. I have a story about this. Faithful listeners to this podcast have probably heard this story before. I've probably said it at least once, maybe twice or more. But as a young music student, back in the day, I had the good fortune to do a composer's masterclass with Aaron Copland. Aaron Copland, great American composer. You probably heard of him. He wrote things like Appalachian Spring, and Fanfare for a Common Man, and many other compositions. Really, truly great American composer. And I was very, very fortunate to meet him and to be in this masterclass as a young composing student back at the University of Buffalo, this program that took place. And we were all sitting in this room. I was actually in the front row center, and Aaron Copland was standing behind the teacher's desk. And he came around the teacher's large desk and sat on the front of the desk. So I was like knee to knee with Aaron Copland. And, I was like, oh, Aaron Copland, pretty cool. Very charming, nice man. But he once asked if there were any questions. So I said, yeah, I have a question. And I just wanted to say something. And at that time, the only piece that I knew of his was Appalachian Spring. And those of you who don't know the piece, it's an orchestral piece. It's got nice, motifs of Americana, songs you've heard from the old days of America. Anyway, I asked him what was his inspiration for it. And I expected to hear an answer like, well, I was visiting Appalachia one time, and I was walking past these cornfields, and I blah, 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 blah. I expected to hear some kind of answer like that he was inspired by his surroundings. Because we'd heard stories like that about Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony, that he had been in the forest and heard these sounds, and he tried to emulate them musically, and that was his inspiration. But Aaron Copland surprised the bejesus out of me with his answer. He said, yeah, I got a commission. Martha Graham called me up one day, and she said, Aaron, I need 20 minutes of dance music. Can you have it before me by next Thursday? I'll give you $200. And he said, and I needed the money. He said, so I wrote her 20 minutes of dance music. I didn't title it. I didn't give it a title. She named it Appalachian Spring. He just gave her 20 minutes of dance music by next Thursday because he needed the money. But he looked at me, he said, there is nothing as inspirational as a deadline. That's what he said. He might have said, it's important that it's time-bound, that your goals are time-bound. He might have said that if that was smart, a smart goal. But basically, there's no inspiration. So set a time limit. Put some pressure. One of my favorite devices is this guy. We've talked about this before. I do have a whole podcast devoted to timers. This is a kitchen timer. This isn't my kitchen. This is my desk. But I have it right there because there are lots of times I will just say, okay, I'm going to work on this thing now for 15 minutes. Boom, hit the little timer. And I'm inspired suddenly. I am motivated. I got to get this done. It's nothing as inspirational as a time limit, as a deadline. So maybe you want to add that to your goals. So speaking of time, this is the time has come to say goodbye for all our families. So if you haven't already liked our podcast or given some sort of acknowledgement, please do subscribe to the podcast. It helps us out more than you know. I really do appreciate that. Appreciate your time listening today, and hope this has been worthwhile. Hope to see you again. Please visit our website at essentialcoachingskills.com, and we're going to be launching a storytelling class very soon. I hope you can join us for that. Thanks a lot. See you again real soon. This has been the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure seeing you again. Hope to see you again real soon. Come back next week when we have another gripping and exciting episode of the Essential Coaching Skills Podcast. And if you want to, you can find out more about us, each and every one of us, at essentialcoachingskills.com. Thanks.